Hello guys and welcome to the E-main Games channel. Today we're here with Johannes Bauer, who just got top 16 at the German Nationals. So go ahead and tell us what you played.
I played Brave dealing with punk cards.
Yep. So how was your experience overall? How was your Swiss standing?
I was 8-2-1, and my experience overall it was a bit interesting because it was my first in real life event that I played. So I had to get used to the playing in real life was a bit different than otherwise.
Yep, totally makes sense. So let's get right into the deck profile.
So first for the flex spots I played one Augur, triple Ash, triple Baylor, triple Nip, triple Droplet. It's only 13, but the one Augur is needed for the E-Tele because the E-Tele only has one target otherwise.
Okay, what's your overall deck count, just to put it in relation?
49 cards.
Okay, so 49 cards, 13 going second cards.
And I think these flex spots were the most versatile that I could play.
Yep, makes sense.
Then the Rockets, 2 Tracer, 1 Synchron, 1 Recharger, 1 Observator, triple Quick Launch.
Okay, so pretty
and
slim
Food Sector.
pretty slim rockets package, right?
The dealing cards, you need them to do the combo, but you don't necessarily want to draw them except for Tracer most of the time. But they are just very nice to have to get the boot sector and to have a grind game with this strategy.
Makes sense. Were you ever missing like a third tracer or more rocket synchrons?
You often run out of seals targets that are good, but usually it doesn't matter because the deck just does very good bots turn 1 compared to the old dealing.
Okay.
Triple Chaos Base, Light Black. These cards usually are very, very good in dealing, but in this deck you usually have to discard a hand trip like Ash, like Vela or Nibiru, my bad, or a Rocket, that's very good. So I usually side this card out going second, like the Triple Chaos Base, the Black and the White, because they are very hard to resolve, and if you get ashed on it, you just lose going second always.
Makes sense, yeah.
Then no strings. You need to play them to make any of the good end boards because you need to make Shooting Riser to send snow. So I think they are must have.
Yeah, very busted in a lot of decks right now.
Yeah. And then the Ravine to send the Absolute you need in the combo. Then for the adventures you need plate this pretty standard and the one Draco back. Just the max amount of starters for it and not multiple Griffin because you just have the dragons instead to do the grind game. Then punks. 1 Seaman because I don't think you want to draw it necessarily in with Brave together, and some people play Brave dealing without the punks, but I think that they are just really broken cards because if you open E-Tele going first, you just win because this needs to get Veiler and then you can just continue playing with a tuner body on your field for free. So it's just very, very good to start, and going second also very, very good. And for the last cards, 1 Snow, 1 Foolish, 1 Quad Buy is just really good at the moment to hit Scythe, and in general to hit hand traps. Draw hits this deck pretty hard. Since you can't just go into Hulk and lock them down with Doctor, since we don't play Scythe. And Foolish Boy is just multiple copies of Brave or sometimes sends an Absolutor. And Snow is just needs to do the standard board.
Is there any cards you were missing in the main deck today?
Not really. I think that this was pretty solid.
Anything you were trying to cut during testing or that?
Like I was thinking about completely cutting the Chaos Base for more dragons, but it's probably not worth it.
Okay.
Then we do the side deck first. Triple Gamma, 1 Driver. I mean, if you don't side it, you probably main it, but I didn't think it was worth because it just has the potential to brick, while I expected a lot of mediocre players or bad decks to face in the round, so I didn't want the additional potential to brick. So I wanted like the most consistent deck to play, with still the good end board. Then the Triple Dark Ruler, You just need it for the base board.
Mhm.
It's only bad against Despair most of the time, so I think it's probably very good to include.
Were you ever scythe locked in standby phase in this tournament? Like
Once, but they usually don't set it up because you need additional bricks for it.
makes sense.
Triple anti-spell. I play it as the only going first card. I play it as the only going first card in my deck, but I also don't think the steep barrier is very good at all because it doesn't do a lot against the base punk deck or Synchro Adventurer.
Yeah, and also Flunder, I guess this anti-spell is way better against.
Yeah, against Flunder, it's just the more versatile card most of the time. Then Triple Twin Twister, one reboot as the back row cards.
Yep.
I didn't really think you needed more. You have the Draco back and the main deck is a mine out, so I didn't want to play a one of Dust or something to have an additional out.
Did you face any like stun or back row decks?
I didn't face a single back row deck.
Okay.
If you don't count Sword Sign.
So, did you even side those?
I sided 1-2 once.
Okay.
And reboot against Otzol every time.
Yeah.
1 second. And Token Collector.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't really come up a lot against Swords actually because I just sent Snow every time instead. But I guess you can hit it off of Ruler. But I still sided in against Swords, of course. But against Base is a very bad card most of the time. I wasn't really very happy with this. I considered playing Droll because it hits the current decks very well right now, but the base deck still can give you high firebacks with a duck down the board and still lock you anyway, so I didn't really think it was optimal to play Droll.
Can you explain why you think that Token Collector is not optimal against Synchro Brave, even though they play right?
Because they still get the level 7 body, and from the Griffin Rider they can add, and it's just the move is level 4, it just doesn't trade that well, and you never want to set it off a Shooting Riser unless you already have Snow and Grave, so it didn't come up a lot, and I didn't want to side it in the first place.
Makes sense.
And go to the extra deck. Link 1, Striker, Pisty, very standard and Ring Link. Then for the Link 2s, Romulus, Dark Charmer, Masquerena, Hulk, Seal. Like the Romulus is very standard for Dragon Link, the Hulk 5 is needed for the Rose Dragons to do the right combos, most of them. The Seal, some people think you could be able to cut Seal in the Dragon Link Brave Punk, but I think if you get rolled or if you are playing against Punk Brave, you really don't want to go into Borderland, which I will get to later. The Masquerena, often in this deck I actually don't build the Savage Dragon going first, if I have the possibility of doing of summoning Chaos Rule on my first turn and then with an additional body going into Masquerena instead. So I have more follow-up. Since it's usually better since a Masquerena with Snow in the Grave is very good. And the Dark Charm is just a very good card for going second, although not many people play Dark Monsters at the moment, except Brave Punk with the Rose Dragons in the Grave.
And seeing those probably helps you combo a lot.
Yeah, you can special the opponent's Rocks Rose and then still activate the effect. So you can go, for example, Hike Flyback, summon your Red Rose, then Dark Charmer summon his Rocks Rose, and then use the effect to add a Pedal Shoot and revive your own Red Rose. So you can combo from there with only one Hike, for example.
That's pretty cool, yeah.
Then we play Triple Burst. Some people don't play Triple Burst, they play Appaloosa instead, but I don't think that's very optimal, since Triple Burst is needed to be better at going second, for example, and if you need to use Striker Dragon on your first turn, before you get to the setup with Pisty and Striker Dragon, you need this to go first. For example, if you open 2 dragons and you need to summon a Striker Dragon early, you definitely need this to go first, and I just think it's very important because of this, especially the going second. Then we also play Unicorn, it's just very standard with Masquerena, so you have a destruction with it. Then Big Link Monsters, Borrel and Access Code. Access Code is just very standard in most decks right now, just to OTK. And Borrel like, I didn't make it a lot this time, I made it about 5 or 6 times total, but only because I played a lot against a lot of Brave Punk, and versus Brave Punk I didn't really like it because they can just Draco back bounce it before I even get to a monster that I would want to negate. So I usually made Seal instead. Since if you have Seal and Snow and Grave, you can, if you get Dark Rulered, you can summon Snow later, book his monster, and then the negated Heretic Seal can tribute your own Snow from the field as cost, so you have it in Grave again. So having a Seal on board is better against Dark Ruler or Droplet if they negate your board. So I didn't really make it a lot against the Brave decks. But against Swordso, for example, it's a very good card because they have not a lot of outs. And now for the synchros, for additionals, we have the Shooting Riser Dragon, just part of his static combo to send Snow. And Chaos Ruler. I often make it going first, I often make it going second. It probably comes up a lot more than Savage Dragon. And Baron. And Baron you just also need for your standard combo.
Okay. Anything you would want to say about your matchups? Were there any decks you faced in particular? Like the most?
I played against a lot of Brave Punk. 8 rounds, I think, out of 14 I played against it.
Okay, that's insane. I think we saw that was most represented, but eight rounds against Brave Punk is still a lot. So you would say your matchup with Nibiru main deck and Dark Rulers inside is pretty good against it, right?
I mean, I think it's a lot of like the Synchro Adventure deck, but I think it's more versatile than it because it has a lot of more grind games. Because if you ever fall behind on the board state with a used like Firebreaks and Graves and it's limited, you can't really play in the third turn unless you have like Chaos Ruler and Dark Charmer played. Like one access core push and then your whole turn 3 is over, I think.
Okay.
Which is why I didn't really like the deck that much as a pick.
Makes sense. So you basically thought that this was the better version of the Brave Punk deck, right?
It's worse versus Deathseer, but I think overall it's the better deck.
Okay, nice. So good to see you doing that well in your first real life event. Any shoutouts you would like to give?
Shoutman to Salman for borrowing me most of the expensive cards, and to you, Ben, for giving me the other half probably of the cards.
Okay, nice. So that was our top 16 Brave Punk Dragonlink deck profile. Yeah, see you later on the E-Main Games channel.